I always thought, wow, Belichick might be the genius as good as Parcells is. And yet Parcells doesn't go out of his way to talk about how great Belichick is or any of his assistants.
Go get me some knowledge.
I remember them drafting, obviously, RG3, and then they drafted Kirk Cousins. It's almost, just in case this doesn't work, okay, we're going to make sure we have a guy that can run our offense.
Yeah.
But they went to Art Briles, the head coach at Baylor. They met with them. They studied. They incorporated all his stuff that he was comfortable with. And instead of one guy learning 10 other people, it was 10 other people learning one guy. So he was the most important person. He right away had this advantage because he was already comfortable in the system, in the philosophy, and everything else. I just don't understand why coaches would be so stupid to sit there and assume that every square peg will fit their square hole. It just, why wouldn't you just do the common sense thing and just adjust your offense for the talents of the person that you have? Or are they just not equipped to do it?
That's a great question. And I asked it a lot over the years too. And usually ask people like you because I'm not smart enough to truly understand scheme. And I don't watch film like you guys. And even if I did, you'd have to talk to me like I'm in sixth grade. But I do talk to people who understand it really well. And I would ask that. And I think part of it was pride. Because think back, remember before The Sopranos, real movie actors wouldn't go on TV. They'd be like, dude, I'm like Robert De Niro. I'm not going to go on your television.
Yeah.
It was just a lower level. And I think pro coaches thought college was not sophisticated. And they were right to some degree, especially now. It's changed. It's dumbed down even more. The quarterback's up there clapping and there's protection
signs.
Yeah, but even then, I mean, I think coaches were, we're not running that college gimmick stuff. This is the NFL. And probably it had to do, or it probably is enmeshed, if I think about it, with the struggles that black quarterbacks faced, because there has definitely been a prejudice against mobile quarterbacks that has eroded greatly over the last 10, 20, 25 years. But back then, even mobile quarterbacks, black or white, there was a scoffing, you can't do that in the NFL. You can't just run around and use your legs. Ultimately, you have to do it from the pocket. And that is true to some degree. You have to be able to do it to some degree from the pocket. And I think the Lamar Jacksons and the Josh Allens get there pretty quickly and evolve to where they can do both. But if you look at the NFL now, you'd sure rather have Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson who could do both, because if the play breaks down, whereas if you're Peyton Manning or Tom Brady, two of the absolute greatest who've ever done it, it's still Brady's not sprinting to his right and right when he gets to the sidelines, whipping his arm back across the field and hitting a guy 40 yards downfield like Josh Allen can, or Patrick Mahomes or Lamar. So I think it took a while for the football establishment to get there. So that's partly because of embedded racism, because I think they associated mobility with black quarterbacks for the most part, partly because of stubbornness and a foundational belief in the pocket being the way that it has to be done, and partly because I just think they thought college football was beneath them schematically. And also, the thing I'll add to that is you had the luxury of time back then. There wasn't a rookie wage scale. There was less pressure to win year one or you're out for the most part. So a lot of quarterbacks waited. And certainly we saw Aaron Rodgers wait the 3 years. We saw Phillip Rivers wait behind Drew Brees. And we saw many instances of players who didn't play right away. And for the most part, the ones who did, it was understood they were going to struggle. Troy Aikman went 1-15. Peyton Manning threw a zillion interceptions. You had your freakish anomaly like Dan Marino, who was great immediately. But for the most part, until Matt Ryan and Joe Flacco, I think 2007 was the year where they played right away and it looked pretty good. it was, if you're going to play them right away, it's just so it'll help you down the road and they'll take lumps. Were you there when Rick Meyer played,
Oh
or was
yeah,
that after you?
yeah. And
Yeah, he actually had a pretty good rookie year from what I
his
remember. And
first
then
year,
yeah,
and then it was just
yeah,
nightmarish. It's funny
yeah.
when you look at those. I'm always interested in coaching trees and just reading some of your book and listening to it and just our conversation. I don't know if there's a better coaching tree in the history of sport than Bill Walsh and all the different coaches that came from him. When you think about Bill, one of the most accomplished head coach in any sport, and then you go Don Shula with the wins record, but it's Bill Walsh that's had these massive, that's just an unbelievable coaching tree.
And that was by design too, because there's two kinds of coaches, and I'll start with one that you played for. So early on, I didn't love Parcells, his act, but I really liked Belichick and got to know him when he was at the end of his Cleveland reign, and then when he went back to being an assistant with the Giants and the Jets under Parcells. And I always thought, wow, Belichick might be the genius, as good as Parcells is. And yet, Parcells doesn't go out of his way to talk about how great Belichick is or any of his assistants. He hoards them, and just at the expense of their individual ambitions, he was like, I'm just going to lay low on this so I can keep them as long as I can because they're good for me. And I always thought to myself, well, Belichick's been through this twice now. So when he gets another chance, he's going to go the other way. Oh, no. Belichick was just as bad as Parcells. When he became an assistant, he wasn't trying to help start a tree. He was trying to keep his guys. Now, for reasons you and I could go into for a long time, it turns out when people did start hiring his guys, they largely failed, partly because they, I think, misunderstood and thought that the reason Belichick was so good was because he acted like an off-putting jerk. It's more to do with the fact that he's a great coach and had Tom Brady. Those were, I thought, the two more important pieces. Whereas acting like Bill acted, that was ancillary. Be yourself. But Walsh was completely the opposite. He cared about the minority coaching thing. In fact, he started what they still call the Bill Walsh Fellowship. He was very cognizant of that. And then, regardless of race, he wanted his guys to get opportunities, to the point where Denny Green, his receivers coach during the Super Bowl season in '88, when they won their third, got the Stanford job in November. And normally you just leave or you finish out your NFL season and the college has to wait. Bill Walsh was like, dude, it's right up the road. Go be their coach and you can do both and be I'll cover for you. You can still be our receivers coach all the way into late January, but you can start. He wanted him to, he cared so much about Denny Green's career. He was like, go do both. I got you. So Bill Walsh was extraordinary in that he really wanted his assistants to prosper. And Shanahan didn't directly come from Bill Walsh, but he did come to the 49ers when he was an embattled guy who'd been fired by Al Davis, fired by Dan Reeves, was at a low point, and learned the Walsh offense and studied it. And of course, Bill Walsh taped all the meetings. So Shanahan had it all. And then ultimately went to Denver and added outside zone to the Walsh scheme. And that became the Shanahan offense.